Passcode.
336. Oh, just said unmute.
Okay.
There we go. Sorry. Too much for this little mind of mine. Okay. Alicia, are we ready to roll?
Yes, we are good to go when you are.
Excellent. Thank you so much. So welcome to everybody I'll call the meeting to order to our January 24th public planning meeting here in Southgate. We have 4 files to deal with this morning. And this public meeting concerning proposed zoning bylaw amendments pursuant to Section 34. We will deal with those 4 files. Any person or public body is entitled to attend the public meeting and make written or oral submissions in support of or in opposition to any of the proposed zoning bylaw amendments. Written comments should be submitted to the clerk, Lindsay Green. If a person or public body does not make an oral submissions at a public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Southgate before the zoning bylaw is passed, the person or public body is not entitled to appeal the decision of council of the Township of Southgate to the Ontario Land Tribunal, and in addition, they may not be added as a party to the hearing of an appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, unless, in the opinion of the board, there are reasonable grounds to do so. So, this afternoon, the first zoning bylaw amendment is file number C19-23 and OPA 1-23 NB Martin Manufacturing Incorporated. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment application is to add an additional permitted use under A1 zoning, small scale industrial use. The proposed rezoning would address maximum combined area of the small scale industrial use and minimum required front yard. The purpose of the proposed local official plan amendment application is to redesignate the lands to agricultural and hazard lands to agricultural, site-specific, and hazard lands. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment would be to change the zoning symbol on a portion of the property from A1 to agricultural exception A1, whatever the number will be, to allow for an additional permitted use under the A1 zoning, small-scale industrial use, and to address maximum combined area of the small-scale industrial use and minimum required front yard. The effect of the proposed local official plan amendment application is to redesignate the lands to agricultural and hazard lands to agricultural, site-specific hazard lands to permit the establishment of an on-farm diversified use on lands with a lot area of 10 hectares. Location of the subject lands, part lot 17, part 16, Proton, as in GS 148863, Geographic Township of Proton, Township of Southgate. Civic address is 192748 Southgate Side Road 19. So, having said all that, may I please have confirmation of the planning coordinator that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act, please?
Yes, Mayor Milne, the sign was posted and proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act.
Most excellent. Thank you. I'll now ask our planning consultant, Bill White, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Welcome, Bill, and the floor is yours, sir.
Thank you. Comments were received from the public or agencies from the historic Saugeen Métis, and they had no objections. From Hydro One, and they had no objections. From Public Works, Then they mentioned that safe access is available and that this is a load restricted road from Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, of the opinion that it's consistent with the natural heritage policies of the provincial policy, as well as the township and county official plan. And from the building department, they advise that permits will be required before construction and that agricultural skid room appears to be in commercial zone. And that was the extent of the comments that I have seen on this file.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Were there any written comments received from members of the public? Bill?
Not that I'm aware of.
Very good. Thank you. Are there any questions or discussion from council at this time? There will be another opportunity later in this meeting, but for now, are there any questions? Okay, not seeing any. I'll now ask if the applicant or agent is present, and please identify yourself by stating your name for the record. And would you like to make any representation on your application? I see Christine has joined us. Hello again.
My name is Christine Loft and I'm representing the landowner. I do have a brief presentation.
Very good.
If I can present that.
Absolutely. Please.
All right, so the property is 192748 Southgate Side Road 19. The property is located on the west side of Southgate Side Road 19. The property has a lot area of 10 hectares and a lot frontage of 238 meters on Southgate Side Road 19. The property is an agricultural parcel of land. It has a single detached residence, accessory structure, which is currently used as a home occupation as well as a barn. The existing home occupation would be discontinued upon the approval of this application. The property is located in a rural area. The lands contain approximately 8 hectares of tillable field, and the lands are partially regulated by the Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority. This is a site plan that was included with the submission and in the staff report, just identifying the location of the proposed small scale structure. And you can see it's close to the front of the property and not affecting the existing agricultural lands. There is a local official plan amendment required, which implements the proposal, and the purpose of that is to redesignate a portion of the lands to permit an OFDU with a combined area of 2,000 square meters on an undersized parcel of 10 hectares. And the effect of the OPA will be to redesignate a portion of the lands to agriculture site-specific designation to permit the OFDU, again with the combined area of 2,000 square meters and an undersized property of 10 hectares. And we would note that a county official plan amendment was also required. It was OPA 18, and OPA 18 was approved by the county on November 23rd, 2023, and no appeals were received. So it is in full force and effect, and this OPA tailors into the county official plan amendment. And the proposed zoning bylaw amendment then would rezone a portion of the lands from the Ag A1 to an agriculture with a site-specific exception, and that site-specific exception will recognize the minimum front yard setback for the small-scale commercial industrial buildings from 20 meters to 15.28 meters. Agricultural, we actually had, a greater discussion about this when the county OP was underway and before the public. So I won't go into a lot of detail, but just sort of highlighting what we had identified and discussed at that time, which was that there's 8 hectares of tillable land that have remained relatively unchanged since 2010. The area proposed for the OFDU is not currently within that agriculture production area. The natural heritage features are present on adjacent lands. They do include significant woodlands to the west and other wetlands to the east, but do not affect the subject lands. The smaller farm parcels are located to the north and do not appear to have large tillable acreages, and that MDS has been calculated and is met, and it's not anticipated that the shop would impact surrounding agricultural operations. Just a photo of the existing structures and barn and the existing structure that holds the home occupation. And just in conclusion, the county OPA was approved, OPA 18, on November 23rd, 2023, that the applications are consistent with PPS, conform to the county plan as amended, and that the application generally complies with the Township of Southgate zoning bylaw as amended. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Very good. Thank you, Christine. Is there anyone present who would like to make a submission in support of this application? Is there anyone present who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application? Okay, seeing none, are there any further questions or discussion from members of council on this particular file? Not seeing any. Okay, then we'll move on to the next, which is C17-23 1000 124408 Ontario Incorporated. You won't be able to say that one real fast at the Christmas party, but nonetheless, there it is. The purpose of the proposed zoning amendment is to rezone the subject property from a residential type 2, R2, to a residential type 3, R3 zone with exceptions for minimum lot area, interior side yard, rear yard, and any other provisions needed to permit construction of a fourplex residential building on the subject lands. 2 of the proposed residential units would have access to Gold Street, and 2 of the proposed residential units would have access to Hagen Street. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to allow construction of the fourplex residential building and future severance of the lands into 4 separate lots through consent applications B14, B15, B16, 23, for which separate notice is given. Location of the subject lands, Lot 28 of Plan 480, Block T, Geographic Village of Dundalk, Township of Southgate. The civic address is 191 Hagen Street West. May I please have confirmation from the planning coordinator that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, Mayor Milne, the sign was posted and proper notice was mailed out in accordance with the Planning Act.
Most excellent. Thank you. I'll now ask our planning consultant, Bill White, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Bill.
Thank you, Mayor Milne. Comments were received with no objections from the Historic Saugeen Métis, Hydro One, Building Department, Enbridge Gas, and the Grand River Conservation Authority. The Public Works Department has identified the need for splitting water and sanitary sewer services to the proposed lots and the extension of Gold Street with water main, sanitary and stormwater infrastructure and roadworks to provide access to the site. They've also identified that it's in a wellhead protection area B, and that they do not have significant concerns from a wellhead protection area. And the County of Grey indicated they had no concerns with the subject application. They also reflected the wellhead protection area information and the location of the lands within the settlement area. I believe that's all the comments that I'm aware of.
Very good. Thank you, sir. Were there any written comments received from members of the public? Bill.
I do not believe so.
Okay.
Unless someone
I
else
can
has.
confirm that none were received.
Okay. Thank you, Alicia. Any questions or discussion from council at this time? Barb, go ahead, please.
Thank you. And through you, thank you, Bill, for your report. And I did have a question with regard to Enbridge Gas. I know that Enbridge Gas is in the area, but they indicated they might have technical issues. We have had indication that they have a capacity issue. So even though Enbridge Gas may have a pipeline, what happens if they can't turn on the tap?
Right.
And my other question is, I'll hold off on my other question. Thank you.
Okay. Bill, do you want to take a run at that one?
Yeah, very briefly, that's a private utility. It could be something that if this were to be approved and we got into an agreement to extend the services in that area underground, that we could work with the private utility to determine what upgrades might be needed, and presumably that would also be an owner applicant payment requirement. But it varies a little bit with gas companies. Sometimes they will invest too, and if they see themselves getting more customers. So it's a private utility. It could be subject to the agreement regarding the extension of the roadway in there if this were to be approved.
Very
Thank
good.
you. And through you, Chair, I will have other questions, but I wondered they may be answered if the applicant's planner is planning on speaking to the application.
And we're there. Is there anyone here present who would like to make a submission in support of this application?
Hi, this
No.
is Yanni from Crystal Planning.
Hey, Yanni, welcome. The floor is
Thank you.
yours.
Thank you very much. I didn't submit a presentation, but I have my notes here and I would like to go through them with you.
Please.
All right, so you did go over the property address and the legal description, but I'll just confirm again. Property is located at 191 Hagen Street West, Dundalk. The property frontage presently is 15.3 meters. And the area is 725.43 meters. The zoning is presently residential type 2, which is the general zoning in the surrounding area with few exceptions, such as residential 3 and institutional, etc. Land use at present, property is vacant right now. There's no development. The property is adjacent to Hagen Street in the south, which is the front side of the property, and the rear is adjacent to Gold Street. And the property is presently on full municipal services with some service extensions that will be needed in Gold Street, I believe. Also, in terms of our review of the policy related to the BPS, the county official plan, the local official plan, and the local municipal bylaw with a few easements being required, it seems that given the servicing requirements, housing provision requirements, densification and intensification objectives, that the development proposal is on par with the objectives of the stated policies. I know there is some concern in relation to character, so I'll just go over a few points in this regard. As mentioned, the surrounding zonings are mainly residential too, which is the current zoning of the subject property also. There are, however, a couple of residential 3 properties located within 125 to 200 meters northeast of the development site, which is in the same streets as the subject property. The current property zoning as well as, insofar as zoning provisions, the zoning provisions for interior side yard of residential 2, which is the current property zoning as well as that of the adjacent properties, is 1.5 meters, which is less than what residential 3's provision, which is 2 meters, which for the abutting properties, we are not asking for easement. Easement that we are asking for will only be applicable to the properties that will be created from the severance that was conserved this morning. So that's an important point in terms of compatibility. Another important point that we thought to raise is that in terms of the front yard and the setback from the street lines, Gold Street and Hagen Street, the properties created and the developments that will be located on them is into the corners of the created lots, so as to take cognizance of encroaching on privacy of landowners as much as possible. So we don't believe that the impact will be very severe. Also, as mentioned previously, no comments were received from landowners. So we do believe that this is not too much of a concern, but that's all from my side. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Yanni. Did I say that right?
Yes.
Okay, good. All right. Is there anyone here present who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application?
Hello.
Robert
Yes,
Zolegi? Did I say
that's
that?
me.
Oh, there you go.
Yep.
All right, Robert, go
Close
ahead.
enough, close enough. Okay. First of all, I'd like to apologize. I've never attended one of these meetings, and I am on Mexican internet currently. So if it kind of cuts in and out, the audio is not good. I apologize for that.
It's great so far, so carry on.
Excellent. So I have a few safety concerns and a few traffic concerns with the proposed rezoning.
Sure.
I am currently located at 200 Hagen Street, directly across the street from the empty lot. And I've been there for a bit over 8 years. Actually, I believe that I worked at the Canadian Tire where you had your oil changed. I believe you had an F-150 at the time back when I worked there.
You're right so far.
Yes. So I have a short list here of some concerns that I have, and I apologize again if there's any audio issues. My first one would be some safety concerns for the children on the street due to further increasing the traffic and adding to the very limited street parking. As you may know, the parking rules were recently changed on that street, and now there is no street parking on the north side of the street, on the north side of Hagen Street. And the south side of Hagen Street, there's also limited street parking because you cannot park near the school. So that is a concern, along with putting extra houses in there. I don't think the driveways will be as large as all of the other houses on the street. And if you look around, it may be a little odd, but a lot of people on my street have upwards of 6 or 7 vehicles. I don't know how it worked out that way, but the parking concern is a big one, along with there's many young children on the street. And the traffic in the area, I think it's one of the busiest parts of Dundalk during pickup and drop off. And it, again, creates more of an issue with the street parking because everybody just kind of ends up leaving their cars wherever they want on the street, making it almost like a one-way road where you have to wait for people to come and go. I'm concerned that it would add to that by adding more houses than was originally planned. Sorry, I'm going through the list here. I would not be opposed to building on the lot. I actually would prefer it because living across the street from an empty lot isn't a great view, so I'm not opposed to building on there, but I feel like it would be a lot better for the street, for the traffic, and for all of the residents on the street. If they continue to build similar to other houses that they've built, where it's like a backsplit semi or a single family home, the backsplit semi would have access, one on Hagen Street and one on Gold Street, still allowing to increase a bit of density in the area because I understand housing is always a struggle everywhere in Canada right now. And I also feel with all of the new subdivisions that are proposed to be built, that are being built, it would make more sense to build higher density housing somewhere where it is planned for it and has room for all of the traffic flow, room for the extra parking required. To be clear, this is my position as an owner of 200 Hagen Street. I expect that I would receive a lot more support from other people on my street as well, because we all kind of struggle with the very limited street parking. And I believe that is all of my concern. Sorry. Okay. I also have concerns with the privacy on the street because that is going to go. Sorry, I have my lawyer here with me. She's kind of giving me some pointers. So with the proposed development leaving no room for backyard, side yard, and very limited front yard, concerned about privacy and a lack of recreational space also for the people purchasing the house.
Concerned about the lack of hydro capacity raised by Mr. Green.
And also concerned about the lack of natural gas capacity that I was not aware of, that was raised previously.
I could have a moment's
And
indulgence.
sorry if I could just could have a moment's indulgence. Again, I'm not very professional with this. I'm a
No,
mechanic. I
that's all right.
apologize.
Take your time. I have one of those lawyers at home too.
Yes. My wife is very good at what she does. From the second paragraph?
Respect.
Okay. I'm just going to read this off. It will be a little bit easier.
Yeah, no, that's fine. Yeah, carry on.
Respectfully, I believe that the impact of the proposed surveillance zoning bylaw amendment and requested relief will have a detrimental effect on the surrounding land uses. Although it will remain residential, the density of that property would be doubled, which would set a precedent for further problematic development on Hagen Street and within the school area, and also Gold Street. This is my position that the proposed amendments only serve the interests and growth of the interests of a growth-oriented builder concerned with profiting by diminishing the opposition of residents such as myself who advocate for preserving the quality of life and the character of the neighborhood, the local school environment, and the original vision of the R2 density in a town that is predominantly rural and agricultural. Growth within the county needs to be managed to minimize adverse effects on the safety of the school children and the safety and convenience of existing property owners, which includes the ability to park. Finally, no evidence was presented that this will actually create more affordable housing. And I would just like to thank everybody for their time.
Traffic study was done
I would like to know if a traffic study was done concerning the effect it would have with more housing on the property and the road use.
and I would like to end by reiterating my concern that there could be a potential negligence issue with children being hurt.
Okay, and I would like to add that there could be a potential issue with children being hurt, which could be
Negligence.
seen as negligence. I thank the council and the mayor, and again, I apologize for my lack of professionalism with this. I'm very
No,
new at
not at
this.
all. Not at all. You did a good job, and kudos to your lawyer. So,
Thank
thank you, Robert. So, of course, no decisions being made today. This is simply here to be for people like yourself to be heard. So, thank you very much for participating.
I appreciate that. Thank you.
All right. Are there any further questions or discussion from members of council? Barb. And then I see Joan has her hand up. I'll come to you next, Joan.
And I
then
think Monica has
and
her
then-
hand as
and then,
well.
yep. Thank you, Monica. Go ahead, Barb.
So I too had concerns about there being no yard other than a minimal front yard where it will likely be mostly driveway. If this is to attract families as starter homes, there's no play area for children. I do have concern about the ability for roof line drainage that would all have to be addressed in a study or and I do understand the concerns of this area and are advocating for better safety for the children at the Dundalk Proton School. And although I'm all for, we all realize we do need to address more attainable housing, and this is an opportunity to provide perhaps a more starter type home. There is no guarantee that that's exactly what the market will allow. I would be more inclined to support a semi-detached a single family semi back-to-back and with a potential for a small secondary unit that could serve as a rental income that might provide better missing middle. Just my thoughts. The other item, so I've discussed the drainage plan, the roof line, and encroachment upon the neighboring property. We addressed that earlier. And could you explain how the easement would be addressed? The easement would be permitting the new housing access to someone else's property. That would require cooperation, would it not?
Are you addressing that to Bill, or where do you want that question to go,
I'm
Barb?
not sure, probably to whomever can answer that for
Well,
me,
maybe
Mr.
I'll
Chair.
start with Bill. Bill, could you speak to
Yeah.
that, please?
Maybe I'll try and answer it, and then Yanni could fill in what I may not be able to answer. I'm thinking that they wouldn't be seeking an easement off any of the adjoining landowners, that the easement would be in favor of each of the individual owners of the properties, and I think it primarily would relate to water flowing down the sides of the home or walkways or whatever that would be down between the units, so to allow water to flow from one to the other, as far as surface water management and roof water and stuff. I don't believe they're seeking any easements off any landowners or are intending to encroach onto abutting properties, but that I stand to be corrected on that if I missed something in that planning report.
Okay, maybe I'll go to Yanni and ask her if she or Genevieve, do you want to?
Sure.
I see the planner is here now. Genevieve, go ahead if you want to speak.
Thank you very much. Genevieve Scott from Questa Planning. I just wanted to clarify. So just in terms of an easement or the reference to an easement, I think what Yanni was trying to describe were actually the side yard setbacks. And so in discussion with respect to the easements along the sides of the parcel, it was just referencing the setback requirements versus easement requirements. So my apologies for confusion in that regard.
Okay.
So I think the point that Yanni was making in that regard was that the zoning that exists now on the property actually provides for a 1.5 meter side yard setback. So you could go in there tomorrow and have a house with 1.5 meters to the property line. With the R3 zoning, you actually have a greater setback. You have a 2 meter requirement. So that was the point that was being expressed. Thank
Very
you.
good. Okay.
Thank
Thank
you.
you,
Follow
Genevieve.
up?
Yep, go ahead.
Just briefly, and one of the concerns I would have, because this is something new where you have two semis back to back, would there, I mean, I guess it's going to be addressed in the building code, emergency egress, if they're only have the front of the house as an entrance exit. That I would imagine that has to be addressed under the building code. So I'm getting a nod. Thank you very much.
Yeah, yes, that would be yes, indeed. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Thank you, Genevieve. So Joan, you're next, please.
Thank you. Through the chair, it's just a simple question. Based on the location of the existing houses adjacent to the lot, would this fourplex be blocking any of the other houses, or how would it be to the existing houses? And the other one, Yanni, you said something about the impact is standard. It's not very severe. What is the severity of the impact of the easement?
Genevieve, go ahead, or Yanni.
Yanni, would you
Hi.
accept?
Okay, no problem.
Sorry, not to jump in on Yanni, but just to
Yep, go ahead.
respond to that question. So I don't know whether or not we could share the site plan, Alicia, if that's possible, please. But
Yep, just give me one moment and I'll pull it up.
Thank you. There we go. Thank you very much. Yeah, so one of the things that just based on some of the discussion from earlier today was with respect to the proposed consents that are associated with the application. We, took a look back at the site plan and looked at the setbacks and where the building is intended to be placed. And if you look at, again, from the side yard perspective, the 2 meters would appear to be sufficient. It's greater than what is required with the current zoning. We also took a look at whether or not there would be really any significant concern related to privacy for either of the abutting neighbors. So if you look at the parcel and how the building would front onto Hagan Street, it's in line with the one house, and these are also the front yards. So we don't anticipate there would be any issue with respect to compatibility and the use of that any type of amenity space. On the side for where Gold Street would be extended, again, it's in keeping with the pretty close to in keeping with where the existing houses are built, and therefore the lines of the houses should be able to remain compatible, and there should not be any sort of significant concern related to use of those yards for either of the neighbors, because it's not really encroaching there significantly.
Very good. Thank you, Genevieve. Does that answer your question, Joan?
Sorry about that. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Not the second part, though. She said something about the easement would not be very severe, and my question was, what is the severity, or how would it affect it in anything severe, or what does that mean?
Okay, maybe I'll go to Yanni on that one. She was the one that made that statement, I believe. Yanni?
Thank you, Chair. Okay, if you look at the site plan that Alicia pulled up, the yellow lines on the site plan shows where we are asking for relief or easement from requirements. The adjacent properties that is to be constructed as a product should this application be successful in relation to each other. The easement will affect each other, but in terms of the surrounding properties, the easement is not really significant at all because it really doesn't impact them. I hope that answers the question.
Okay with that, Joan?
Thank you.
Very
Yes.
good. Oh, sorry. Go ahead. All right. Okay. Monica, you were next. Go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair, and thank you, Mr. Robert, for bringing up those concerns. So that was primarily one of the main concerns that I had, was just ensuring that the overall impact of the proposed fourplex on the neighborhood's character, the safety, and the quality of life wouldn't be so impeded on. So further discussions, I do believe, would be needed to address these concerns and explore alternatives, solutions that align with the community expectations. Very familiar with that location, as is most people, I believe, on here. So definitely the concerns with regards to the parking, child safety, recreational space, whether or not a traffic study has been done, comparison with single dwelling homes in the area, which is something I did bring up earlier about having 2 single dwelling homes on each side, and knowing how that's going to actually fit in. I do find that community engagement is really important in these types of discussions. So again, thank you for coming on, making that time, especially being overseas, and that there is that important that the residents' voices are heard throughout the decision-making process, as we know that particular area has been met with contention, with issues with our growing population and everything related. We certainly don't want to add more frustration. You did make a really good point, Mr. Robert, with regards to having something built there, but whether or not that would be a fourplex and what that would mean. I think that we would have to take a look at specific conditions to be put in place in order to have a fourplex. Otherwise, we would need to discuss different avenues for gathering additional feedback and insights from the community and finding out what's the best for everyone there. So it's more of a comment, and where I'm kind of sitting on this as well, in offering my insights to really hearing for the people who are actually living there, and what would work best.
Very good. Thank you, Monica. Now I can't see everyone, but was there someone else that wanted to, another member of council? There we go. Thank you, Alicia. Was there another member of council that had any questions, comments? Bill, just a question to you, in regards to the traffic study. Typically, on an application like this, a traffic study would not be required. Is that correct?
It goes, if I may, Mr. Chairman, if it goes to the potential impact from the density increase, and theoretically it's 3 times what's currently allowed, I suppose, by zoning. So I mean, it might be, especially with the parking on one side issue, it might be something that could help clarify the safety concern raised by the individual who spoke, and give you some engineering recommendations as far as, you know, whether it's legitimately a concern or not. In these neighborhoods where you're adding 3 or 4 homes, it's really a hard thing to measure, but it might give council some more information in terms of whether it is a real, I say real, from technically a concern from an engineering perspective, the traffic.
Right. Thank you very much for that. To be clear, I wasn't advocating that we wouldn't ask for one, but I just wondered if we would typically see one. But I can understand your rationale that it may clear some concerns for sure. So applicants take note. All right. Any further discussion or questions from the council? Barb.
Not for myself, Mayor Milne, but earlier there was another party who turned their camera on, and I wasn't sure if they were a member of the public who may have wanted to speak. But it might have been a delay.
Yes,
Okay.
I believe that may have been me. I
Okay.
apologize if I'm speaking out of turn.
No, that's all right. If you'd like to speak now, by all means, identify yourself and the floor is yours, ma'am.
Thank you very much. For the record, my last name is Barthos, spelled B-A-R-T-H-O-S. First name Alexandra. I
Okay.
also reside on Hagen Street. I echo Mr. Robert Salagi's concerns, and respectfully, I'm just not sure that the privacy concerns that I have are met in these circumstances, because there would literally be no other house on Hagen Street, or as far as I'm aware, on Gold Street, where there is such little distance between the adjoining properties. I believe it's to the east and west of the proposed redevelopment, rezoning, and severance. So I too have safety and capacity concerns, and concerns that this would unreasonably change the character of the neighborhood. With respect to whether a traffic study is needed or might be of assistance, speaking only for myself, of course, I think that could perhaps provide some critical information, and hopefully allow council to have all of the tools it needs to assess the safety in this particular circumstance, given that there is a school so close by. And we, of course, want to make sure that we are protecting the children.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you very much for your sorry, I didn't mean to
No, I
interrupt.
apologize, Mayor
Carry
Milne.
on.
Thank you so much. I just wanted to add, that it is a dead end street. So all of this traffic that needs to access the school is going to be going, right by our houses. There's many children on the street, and we just primarily want to make sure that nobody gets hurt as a result of this densification, which I would respectfully submit could occur in an area that is designed for R3 type homes, or in a new subdivision where it would be a mix of those types of homes. So I thank the council and I thank you, Mr. Mayor, for your time.
Thank you very much for taking the time to express your concerns to the committee. Absolutely valuable. Alrighty then. I'll give the last word to councilors if there's any further questions. Not seeing any, thank you very much. We'll move on to the next file, which is C18-23, Southgate Renewables Holdings Corporation. The purpose of the application is to rezone the subject lands from the Industrial 1 Exception 434 Holding Industrial M1 and Environmental Protection to a new proposed holding industrial zone with exceptions and environmental protection. The exceptions would add, as permitted, an anaerobic, say that 3 times, Brian, anaerobic digester and accessory uses, provide building regulations as needed for the proposed use, including maximum building height of 18.5 meters, lot coverage 53%, required parking 14 spaces, and buffering/screening of outdoor storage. The holding symbol would be removed to allow the proposed use when site plan approval conditions are met and a development agreement signed and registered on title. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to rezone additional lands acquired from the municipality to permit the proposed anaerobic digester and accessory uses with appropriate exceptions to allow the use and a holding symbol to set conditions to be met before development occurs. The zoning application recognizes provisions set in a previous rezoning and minor variance application on site. Location of the subject lands are Concession 2, Southwest Toronto Sydenham Road, Part Lot 237, RP 16R 1095 6, Parts 1 and 2, Geographic Township of Proton, Township of Southgate. The civic address is Eco Parkway. May I please have confirmation from the planning coordinator that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, Mayor Milne, the sign was posted and notice was mailed out in accordance with the Planning Act.
Most excellent. Thank you. I'll now ask our planning consultant, Bill White, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Bill.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I have comments with no objections from Historic Saugeen Métis, Hydro One, and Enbridge Gas. Public Works has a few comments regarding servicing of the lands. They'll be connected obviously to municipal water and sanitary sewer. They've gone into the allocation request, which is for 175 cubic meters per day. And that has to be given an approval through the through council for that allocation. And it's noted that the report notices minimal water will be directed to the sanitary sewer as it's used during the process on the site. He goes on to mention that they're exploring with the township and Ministry of Environment the possible use of Lagoon Cell 3 to supply the internal process for the biodigester. There's a few other comments about wastewater effluent. It's noted that the municipal fire flows projected will not be met with the current water supply, and the report comments on an on-site underground water supply tanks for fire servicing. So should point that out here. And it's got backflow information and haul routes also on there. Triton Engineering side will obviously provide peer review comments on the engineering implications of this proposal. Conservation Authority did not appear to have any significant objections to the proposed rezoning. And similarly, County of Grey also had no objections. I believe that's the extent of the comments that I've seen.
Excellent. Thank you, Bill.
Oh,
So-
did I mention the building department? They have no
no.
concerns.
Okay, good. All right. Thank you, Bill. So Alicia, I'll ask you the next question. Were there any written submissions from the public? No.
Sorry, yeah, no, there were no comments received from members of the public.
Very good. Thank you. Any questions or discussion from council at this time? Not seeing any. I'll now ask if the applicant or agent is present. Please identify yourself by stating your name for the record. Would you like to make any representation on your application? I see Christine is back. Welcome back, Christine. The floor is yours.
Thank you, Mayor Milne. Christine Loft representing Southgate Renewables Holding Corp. And I do have a short PowerPoint if I may share.
Absolutely. Please do.
So the property is known as 100 Eco Park Way in Dundalk. The property is located on the south side of Eco Parkway, sorry, not Southgate Road 14. And the property has a lot area of just over 4 hectares and a lot frontage of 78 meters. The lands are vacant industrial lands. They have frontage on Eco Parkway, and they are adjacent to industrial lands, including the municipal lagoons. The proposed amendment proposes to rezone a portion of the property from M1 to the M1 with an exception 434 and a holding symbol. And the existing M1 434 holding NEP lands will remain unchanged. So you can see that in this area, which is already zoned with the 434 exception and the holding provision. And there are EP lands that you'll see in a moment on a different plan, but they do traverse down the west edge of the property. So the exception 434, which is already in place on the front portion of the property, has the additional permitted use of the anaerobic digester. It provides for buffering and screening of outdoor storage, and it also includes a holding symbol, which is proposed to be removed following a development agreement and site plan agreement being registered on title. And the effect of the bylaw then is to rezone additional lands acquired for the municipality to permit the proposed anaerobic digester and accessory uses with appropriate exceptions to allow the use. And the zone, as mentioned, is subject to a holding symbol. The zoning application recognizes provisions that are set or were set within a previous minor variance application that the Committee of Adjustment approved. The file was A7 2022, and this would be the A7 2022 actually was for the entire site. So this is not something that's before council today, but that permitted a maximum building height over the entirety of the property of 18.5 meters, a lot coverage of 53 meters, and the required parking of 14 spaces. This is the Schedule A to the draft bylaw that was submitted. So you can see the outline of the subject lands in this location. You can see the area today that's currently zoned M1. And so the proposal would be to bring that into that 434 with the holding symbol. And then, as I mentioned earlier, there is some EP lands that traverses the west portion of the property, and those EP lands will remain intact. This is the overall site plan. We have submitted for site plan approval. I'm not going to go through this in great detail, but I just wanted to show that this is the entirety of the site that you just looked at on the previous slide, and that the majority of the operation is within that front portion that is currently zoned with the 434, but that the tanks once the additional lands were purchased, the site plan does show the tank locations that are extending onto the rear lands that Southgate purchased from the municipality. And so that's the premise of this application, is to extend the zoning. Just some site photos and on Eco Parkway. And so just in conclusion, the Southgate Renewables has purchased the shovel-ready lands within the municipal industrial park. As the design of the facility progressed, additional lands were purchased to enlarge the overall landholding and to allow for greater ease of access and a larger working space for processing, office, and maintenance buildings. And as such, the zoning approval relates only to the original parcel, which is known as parts 1 and 2, on reference plan 10956. And the variance applied to the entirety of the site. So the 1 and 2 on plan 10956, as well as part 1 on plan 11751, which is the back portion of the property. We have already submitted for site plan approval to the Township of Southgate, and we have also submitted to the Grand River Conservation Authority for their regulatory permit process, and have received we have received comments back from the Conservation Authority that they're generally in support. And so for ease of process and consistency with the zoning over the newly amalgamated lands, it's beneficial to all, both the municipality as well as Southgate Renewables, if there's simply one zone on the property and that we're not bouncing between a straight M1 zone and an M1 434 zone. And those are my comments. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Christine. All right. Is there anyone present who'd like to make a submission in support of this application? Not seeing any. Are there anyone present who would like to make a submission in opposition to this application? All right. Are there any further questions or discussion from members of council? Barb.
Just more of a comment to seek just confirmation that this is simply the additional lands needed to be purchased in order to accommodate the anaerobic digesters. There has been no change to the process or to the sourcing of material that may have been, considered previously. This is something that this has been going on for about, 6, possible 7 years in its process. At least 5. And I just, I know that there was an EBR, but I did note that there was no change being considered to the process.
Thank you, Barb. Christine, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through, yes, Your Worship, through you, I would ask Andrew Kaza from Southgate Renewables to respond to that. Thanks, Andrew.
Welcome, Andrew, and proceed, please.
Thank you, Mary Milne. Thank you, Christine. Yeah, Andrew Kaz, I'm a representative on behalf of Envest and Southgate Renewables Holding Corp is our development. So, Barbara, to answer your question, there's no change to the process and there's no change to the permitted capacity of the site. So the ECA remains intact from that perspective. Really, the change that we're asking for here was to accommodate more space on the site and make use of that back parcel more from an operations and maintenance perspective.
Okay, thank you, Barb, and thank you, Andrew and Christine, for that answer. Any other questions from council? Joan, go ahead, please.
Thank you. Through Mayor Milne, I thought I heard you said something about water supply or water flow. Would it affect our water supply here in the township?
Trying to think. Yeah, no, we hear you. Absolutely. Bill, you made that comment, please go ahead.
That arose out of Public Works, and there is an allocation of water and sewer that council will have to approve here moving forward. That occurs, as I understand it, through the site plan approval process. I think the letter also points out that for fire flows, that there may need to be some storage of water on site in order to ensure there's proper pressure for any firefighting, future firefighting issues that may occur on site. But I believe these things are all resolvable through the site plan approval process, and that it would be desirable to get the entire site all in one zone and not have any sort of outlying issues from that perspective. But the water and sewer allocation will be dealt with through the site planning process. I think we've been advised it's certainly adequate to proceed further on the zoning side at this point.
Very good. Thank you, Bill. Is that okay, Joan? You're good? Very good.
Thank you.
Yep. Thank you. Barb, go ahead.
Just in follow-up to Councillor John's question, the underground reservoir would be similar to that which we oftentimes ask for the industrial shops out in the rural non-settlement areas when access to water for fire suppression is inadequate or unavailable. Is that kind of what they're suggesting might be required?
Bill?
I think so. I haven't seen this a lot over the years, but however it's done to sort of hold on to water in case it's needed at a higher pressure and volume later on, whether it's an above ground or underground tank, however it would work from an engineering perspective. That's what I don't know what sort of what you've done in the rural areas. Frankly, I haven't seen this a lot, but in the industrial areas, it occurs from time to time, and it's just a way of holding water in the event you need it at a higher pressure later on.
Yeah, I suspect that's exactly what they're looking for, Barb, which is kind of ironic when the building's like literally right beside a bazillion gallons of water. But anyway, that being as it may. Any further questions from council? Not seeing any. Thank you very much to everyone. Now we'll move on to our next file, C20-23, Cleon Martin. The purpose of the proposed rezoning is to place the school property at 044037 Southgate Road 4 and the abutting parcel of land to be conveyed by the abutting landowner under file B2/23 and into a community facility zone with any necessary exceptions to allow future improvements on private water and sewer. The effect of the proposed rezoning is to place the consolidated school property in an appropriate community facility zone to allow future improvements. The location of the subject lands are Concession 6, Lot 11, Geographic Township of Egremont in the Township of Southgate. The civic address is 491233 Southgate Side Road 49. May I please have confirmation from the planning coordinator that proper notice was given in accordance with the Planning Act?
Yes, Mayor Milne, I can confirm that the sign was posted and proper notice was mailed out in accordance with the Planning Act.
Most excellent. Thank you. I'll now ask our planning consultant, Bill White, to review correspondence received from commenting agencies. Bill, please.
Thank you very much. We have comments from Historic Saugeen Métis, Enbridge Gas, County of Grey, Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority, and Southgate Public Works, essentially all with no concerns or objections.
Excellent. Thank you, sir. And Alicia, were there any written comments received from members of the public?
No, there were no written comments received from members of the public.
Okay, thank you so much. Are there any questions or discussion from council at this time? Barb.
Thank you. As is my practice, and as we had established some time ago, much to my pleasure, is that we consider the requirement of a flashing speed reduction school zone sign. Our bill, you may not be familiar with this, is if the Public Works Department deems calming measures would be in order, given the location of the parochial school, that the school itself purchase the solar lights, the flashing speed reduction lights would be purchased at the expense of the applicant and then assumed by the township. And I would like to make sure that that is a consideration if required. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Okay. Any other questions right now from council? Monica, go ahead, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Just for you, just with regards again to the impact on surrounding area, are there any consideration for possible traffic, noise, or other aspects that might affect residents in the vicinity?
I'm going to say no, but Bill's going to tell us what the real answer is.
Well, it's pretty well. Yeah, I think you're very concise in your answer that there isn't any studies. It's a school in a rural area. It's already there. It's increasing its space to. It's increasing its land size to allow more future development on it, I suppose. It's several, they did an MDS calculation there's some drawings in the application. I think the closest foot farm would be 200 16 meters away. So we haven't done any of those studies. It's pretty rural, and I suspect it's probably the community that it's serving is all living around there. So I don't expect there to be a problem, but we have not done any of those studies.
This is the, I think this is the Riverside Mennonite School, is it not? Yeah, so, no, I can confirm from my own experience that there's nothing really close to the school.
Okay.
And yeah, and Bill's right. I think most, if not all, of the landowners adjacent are of the same community. In any case, good question. So thank you, Alicia, for bringing that up, that slide. So I'll ask now if the applicant or agent is present. Please identify yourself by stating your name for the record, and would you like to make any representation on your application? I don't see or hear anybody there, so that's good. Is there anyone present who would like to make a submission in support of this application? Not seeing anyone. Is there anyone present who'd like to make a submission in opposition to this application? Not hearing any. I'll ask one further time. Are there any questions or discussion from members of council on this file? Seeing none, I want to thank everyone for their input today and their time. And I will declare this public portion of the meeting adjourned at, it is now 2:00. Oh, there's Donna Zikar. So did I get that right? You're muted, Donna, sorry. There you go.
Sorry, it's Zikar.
Okay. So you wish to speak in support, opposition?
Well, we wanted to speak about the first file that you discussed during the meeting. I didn't want to interrupt your flow today. That was file C9-23, OPA1-23, Mr. Martin's application.
Okay, I'm just going to look for a little bit of direction from our coordinator on procedure. Madam Alicia, are we permitted to go back to that?
Just give me one moment.
Or is
okay?
is that the chair's call? I mean, as far as I'm concerned, we could do that, but I don't want to contravene any rules.
I wasn't sure that I should interrupt at the end of that discussion.
No, that's all right. That's all right. We try to keep this as informal as we can, so I appreciate your time. But
I'm here with my mother Annie Zikar, which is Brandon.
Well, I'll tell you what. Let's go back. I mean, yeah, this is just a public planning meeting. We want to get everybody's input here for everybody's benefit. So, if you wish to speak, please go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. My mother Annie is the landowner next to Mr. Martin's property.
Okay.
We have no opposition to his application. We're fine with that. So we don't want to take up too much of your time. We just had a few questions.
Certainly.
But I can always email those to Alicia if that's better.
Your choice. If you'd like to ask them now, or if you?
Okay, I'll do that now then.
Okay.
If you'd like to, sorry, through the chair, if you'd like to proceed, Donna, and if there's anything that we're unable to answer at this time, certainly email me and we will get the answer for you.
Okay.
Okay.
You may not be able to answer. It was just a few concerns that we had. First, we just wanted to confirm the frontage from the street. Was that 15.3 meters?
Now I'm going to go to Bill on that one.
I wish the consultant was still here. But let me have a look and see what I can find in her presentation. This one started before I was around, so that's my excuse. I'll stick to that.
Yeah, stay with that one.
So I don't see any setbacks, but minimum front yard setback for the small scale commercial industrial building is reduced from 20 meters to 15.28 meters. So it's slightly smaller. Well, it's 4 meters smaller. So it's going from 66 feet to, if you're a foot person, 66 feet to 50 feet.
50, yeah.
Okay. And we had similar question about the side from Side yard, yes. From the fence line or property line, where would he be able to start to build? Where would the building be?
Right. So they don't have a exception for the side yard. So that would be whatever is current in the agricultural zoning. And I'm quickly searching it here to tell you what that would be, but that wouldn't be any different than what's allowed now. And I think it's A1 is the underlying zoning, and I'm gonna have that here in a minute.
Side yard is 15 meters.
There we go. Perfect. I was gonna say that. Thank you. Perfect. I see that as 15 meters, and that
Which
was
is
applied here.
50 feet.
Okay.
Yeah.
And along the property line, there was some mention of additional landscaping or tree planting in the meeting that we had in September. Would that be done to assist with the view of the building?
I would say yes. It's a normal requirement for these on-farm diversified uses that they go through a site plan process, and in that we would normally the township has required screening through trees or berms or both.
And there was no request to waive that requirement. So that, at least at this point, is still very much a requirement.
The other question was regarding noise. With the building being built that close to us, will there be additional noise with his machinery or equipment?
Through you, Mr. Chair, I can express how I've seen these dealt with in the past in the township. Is there is a requirement that during operation they keep all doors closed, especially if there's and windows closed, so that it's a little less noisy, but there will be noise from it. It's just I don't know the degree, obviously, but we can try and work in a provision that makes sure the operation occurs with some noise mitigation, such as keeping doors and windows closed.
And that is exactly how we have dealt with these in the past. Typically, we don't allow opening windows or doors that go towards a neighbor. They have to stay closed, and of course, the trees help with that too. Eventually, is once they grow higher.
And what about any emissions or fumes or anything coming from that equipment? Is there fans or ventilation required on the building?
So they, if I may again, they would
Yep,
be getting
please.
building permits, and they would be required to install whatever equipment that may be needed for that. There is what are called D6 Ministry of Environment guidelines for these uses, and I didn't see any in that reference to that in the consultant's proposal. We have to bring back a staff report on this, and I could address whether D6 environmental guidelines would apply, and if they are, what kind of, basically it requires for this kind of use probably a 70-meter separation. And if you don't have a separation, then you need to do some mitigation, and the mitigation would be along the lines of what the mayor's already said: closed doors, closed windows, and berming and trees and such as that. But I could address that in the report a little more fully, because I'm not an expert on the D6 guidelines, and if need be, you could ask them, we could ask them to provide that analysis to go along with the report before council were to consider this.
Yep.
Also regarding traffic, we currently have quite a few speeders on this Southgate Side Road 19. Has there been a traffic study, or will his manufacturing increase traffic flow?
If I
I'm
may,
going
I
to
guess.
go ahead, Bill.
No, there's been no traffic study.
No.
And so I don't know this. Typically these do increase some traffic, but I mean, I don't know. Again, no study was done, so it's another thing that could be brought forward as part of the staff report, that we asked the consultant to address that.
Mhm.
No. Yes, during construction, as the properties are quite close there and where the building would go, would there be construction activities on the frontage, like the bulldozers or construction trucks or some sort of damage to the culvert to the frontage of the yard? And would that be repaired?
And I'm going to go out not too far on a limb here, but I'm going to say any damage to township infrastructure would be required to be fixed in any case.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Well, thank you for your time, Mr. Chair. As I say, we just had a few questions. And we also wanted a copy of Christine Mock's presentation. I think it's probably on the website which we could download.
Yep, absolutely. I think it is. Is it, Alicia? The presentation? Yep.
Yes, it's available through the agenda link. I will or can also post it under the file, or I can just email it to you directly if that's easiest.
That would be fine.
Okay,
Excellent.
I'll send it by email then.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Donna, very much for your time. Thank you for being patient. And we truly appreciate your input. Barb, I saw your hand up. Did you have a question?
I was just wondering if the questions could be emailed, if it would be most convenient to Alicia if she had an email from Ms. Leichhardt with her questions so that the planner can address those when it comes back to council. And then Alicia would have your email address to respond with the loft report.
She does have it. We have communicated, but I can send the questions.
Very good. All right, then. I'll, like I said, I'll declare this public planning meeting adjourned. Thank you all.